Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff, hanging out. Sorry about the little delay here at the beginning. Right as I was about to go live, my mic freaked out. I don't know what happened. But anyway, if you could let me know if you can see and hear me okay, I would really appreciate it. Basically, if you have not been for one of these before, basically, whenever Games Workshop puts out a preview of something that really grabs my interest, I do like a little preview review, so to speak. And so I wanted to do that today, and we're talking about two things. One of them I'm just going to touch on very, very briefly, and that is that Games Workshop put out some really, really big news today as far as, we'll get to the Warhammer Age of Sigmar stuff. That's going to be the bulk of the discussion. But also, in case you are curious, they did put out the core rules for Warhammer 40k. Now, there's no points like that. You can only play open play. I don't have much to comment on this because I don't know 40k quite as well. I'm very interested to see what other people's thoughts are. The only thing that I looked through it and I was like, is that they didn't put the, what are they called? The formations or battalions that you build your army in this. So I'm like, that's like a core part of the game. I don't quite understand why that wasn't in there. But yeah, so go ahead, grab whatever you want. They just previewed this little turret thing that they drop into the sky, and that's about it. So I don't have anything else to say about the 40k thing, but if you are interested in it, go check it out for sure. Oh, detachments, thank you. Daka Flock of Flame. I like that. That's a funny one. But I wanted to talk about the General's Handbook. They had an article today regarding matched play. And what I'm going to do is basically read the article out for folks who I get. There's an abnormal amount of Age of Sigmar truckers and drivers who don't have time to actually like pull over and read the article, but they like hearing about it. So that's what we're going to do. Let's see. We got not enough of the word leak in the title. Yeah, I know. Well, because it's not a leak. That's the thing. It's like Games Workshop just put it out there for you. So, General's Handbook Matched Play. A new season of Matched Play dawns with the latest General's Handbook. This year's essential annual for gamers promises your most balanced and competitive battles yet, from tweaked pitched battle profiles to new missions to tweaked pitched battle profiles. What is that? What's a pitched battle profile? Am I missing something? Anyway, today we're looking at some headline changes to help you prepare. Obviously, they say new points. As with all of the previous General's Handbooks, 2020 will include a set of pitched battle profiles, key data on how many points your unit costs, their unit size, and so on. They've been carefully balanced and tweaked by our team in line with playtester feedback, tournament results, and internal testing. I think we can all understand that maybe there's not so much tournament results data feeding into this, seeing how, I mean, depending on when it was published, I don't know, I think events were probably drying up pretty late into this thing's development. I don't know. What do you guys think? Make sure to check out these in detail. Some favorites may now take up bigger slots in your list, while other options have gone down in points. Looking at you, Liberators and Putrid Blight Kings. That's good news for me, for sure. And they may just be the thing for your next tournament-winning list. Like in last year's edition, we will be ensuring that armies released after the General's Handbook went to print, so like that's things like Cities of Sigmar, will have their matched play profiles updated for free with a set of downloads in the very near future. That is cool. I like the fact that they are saying like, hey, listen, we can't like stop making battle tomes in order to, have refined points, but the fact that they're willing to say like, here's the General's Handbook, here's the points, and then here's a download for your army because it just came out at the wrong time of the development cycle. Yeah, I like that. I like that quite a bit. My Liberator army will be useful. Oh, that's so funny. So we're going to scroll down. They just got a cool picture of a battle here. One thing that I just want to touch on this in a very small way. We were chatting about the last preview where it seems like Malign Sorcery is kind of being sunset as far as the artifacts and things go. At least for matched play. For narrative play, keep playing it, okay? But there was a question that's like, well, what happens to the endless spells in that set? The fact that in this picture there's a giant flaming skull, they're not going anywhere, I'm pretty sure. So, I just wanted to say that. Next segment is called Win Your Way. And this is something they emphasized quite a bit in this coming edition of 40K as well, that I think that they've taken a design stance of saying, okay, we understand how to make, symmetrical missions where you're both trying to do the same thing, but what are ways that we can allow armies to play in the most thematic way possible, which gives you alternate win conditions or ways to get points, things like that. So Warhammer Age of Sigmar offers match play gamers a vast diversity of playstyles and army builds, from defensively oriented gun lines to ultra elite monster matches and covens of magic slinging sorcerers. Auxiliary objectives are a new set of secondary goals that you choose before battle. Secure more of them than your opponent, and any draw will be changed to a minor victory for you. Now, I kind of want events to really use these in terms of points and that kind of thing. That would be really, really cool. If you have not seen the previews for how missions and secondaries and that kind of thing score points in the new 40K, that is exactly what I want. And you can go watch an older video about that, but I like the system, rewarding you for playing the way that your army thematically plays specifically. So let's say your army is super fast. The Invader Objective is ideal for you. And this is what it says. So you complete this auxiliary objective if, at the end of the battle, you have more friendly units wholly within your opponent's territory than your opponent has wholly within yours. If you prefer surgical aggression, marked for death rewards you for slaying an enemy unit. When you reveal this auxiliary objective, your opponent must pick one unit in their starting army that is not a hero. You complete this objective if you destroy that unit before the end of the battle. Now, it's not a hero, but they can still bubble wrap and hold it back. I'm not as big a fan of that one, because you have to reveal it first, and then they get to choose. The fact that they are choosing the unit is like, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of that one. Knowing battle plans will still be key to victory in the Mortal Realms, but now you have a chance to tailor your objectives to your favorite strategy. Yeah, I hope there's more to it than this, because just saying, like, in the event of a draw, you get a minor victory if you win the secondary, it's all right. I mean, I don't think I've gotten a draw many times, to be perfectly honest with you, in Age of Sigmar. I want them to be more meaningful than that. Let's see. And then new realm rules. We're going to talk about this, and it does clarify some of the questions we had in the last video. One of the most exciting changes in the latest edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar was the Realm of Battle rules for each of the mortal realms, which provided players with a vast suite of in-game effects and artifacts. In the latest General's Handbook, these rules have been streamlined for ease of use and distinctiveness, and balanced for matched play, ensuring that each realm has its own flavor while minimizing the time you'll spend flickering through various rulebooks and rolling on random tables. That's a win. 110%. Battles in Ulgu, for instance, are tense and unpredictable. Wizards gain access to a truly nasty spell, overgrown terrain everywhere, severely curtail shooting, and commanders are able to quickly pull units out of combat with a tricksy command ability. So we're going to talk about this. I want to come back around and talk about that. We're going to finish the news cycle, and then we'll come back around. The realm artifacts from Malign Sorcery have also been replaced with smaller, tighter list. You'll be able to choose a thematic, realm-specific options, but now you'll also be encouraged to branch out and look at your own army's artifact list rather than always having to compare them to an Ether Quartz brooch, which is exactly what we all did. I like that. And then the last part here is new meeting engagement. So if you're not familiar, it's a 1,000 point format with its own type of rules, its own type of gameplay, and how you score objectives and that kind of thing, and how points are calculated. It was kind of a big flop in the last one. I played a couple games of it. I just didn't have fun. I mean, win or lose, I just didn't. There was multiple moments when I saw I could win but my opponent would absolutely have no fun because there'd be no engagement. So like, nah, we'll pass on this. But if they're going to revitalize it and kind of fulfill the promise of what it was supposed to be, of like brutally fast, quick games of AOS, I'm on board, 110%. So, General's Handbook includes updates for meeting engagement, Warhammer Age of Sigmar's dedicated 1,000 point rule set. If you've not tried meeting engagements yet, you're missing out. This fast-paced mode of play turns traditional strategy on its head, challenges you in every phase of the game, and only requires half the models to play. With more battle plans to try and rules for team games of meeting engagements using Coalition of Death rules, this promises to be a great way to spice up your usual battles. So, it is what it is. Those games weren't against me. I always beat Doug. Very funny. And then at the bottom it just says, and more. Check back tomorrow, which I will be streaming again tomorrow for news, for a look at the new hero creation system. Sweet. Okay, so that is the news story. I'm going to look in the comments right now, and we'll just go through any questions that people have. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in all caps. So I can see it. Inquisitor Thomas, question. Are there any storm keeps located in Olgu? You said that when Storm Host went into Olgu, they basically all died and lost their memories. So is a Storm Host from Olgu not lore friendly? I'll be honest with you, I can't think of one. But I also can't think of anything that straight up says, like, Sigmar has absolutely no access to the place. You know what I mean? Because that story of them all dying and having their minds wiped was like, that was the end of the Realmgate Wars, as the book All Gates. So it's not, I mean, so much has changed since then. That's like the last time that Stormcast even tried. I would not say it breaks the lore. The fact that you can theme your army to be from there, and that there are rules to support that, tell me you can do whatever you want. Go for it, brother. Go for it. Question, you feeling okay? Why aren't you at work? I'm not at work because they gave me the day off. My birthday is this week. My birthday is on the 5th. And the whole company, because of the way our business is structured, is off on Fridays. And I normally have Fridays off. So they were like, hey, listen, since we're paying you for the 4th holiday on Friday, why don't you just take Thursday off? And so that's what I did. So I am home today, hobbying, hanging, and playing far too much Fallout 76. It was my whole morning. Cody, question, ever been to LVO? I bought my ticket. It's going to be my first official tournament. No, I have never been to LVO, but I want to try sometime. For sure. I don't know. I feel like I'd be the bummer if I went there because I don't want to do anything in Vegas that most people do. Like, I don't like gambling. I'm not going to go to an adult club. I'm not going to drink that much. Like, I'm not going to do anything. I might get to see a show. I hear that, what did my wife tell me? I think it was the Backstreet Boys are going to be there for like 10 years or something. I don't know. Just go pick something out at random. So, yeah, that is me. Inquisitor Thomas, disliked, unsubbed. What? So we're going to, I'm getting old. I got to go at least one official tournament. Yeah. I wouldn't mind going to LVO. It seems fun. Yeah, I want to come back around and talk about these. Blow it up here. I'm trying to fill the screen. So, Realm of Battle Olgu. For match play. Okay. Judgment. So basically you get a spell when you're in there. It has a casting value of 7. If cast, pick one enemy unit within 12 inches of the caster. And that is visible to them, and roll 7 dice. For each roll that is less than that unit's unmodified save characteristic, it suffers a mortal wound. If it has an unmodified save characteristic of dash, so like your hordes of nobodies, you suffer a mortal wound on a 2-up instead. It's cool. I mean, it's a way to do some mortal wounds. You know, honestly, some armies have access to it, some don't. As far as multiple spells to do those kinds of things. Not a juggernaut spell, but if you're doing a Tzeentch list, when you factor in, it's just one more way to throw mortal wounds at people in an army. It's full of spellcasters, right? I'm kind of feeling the same way about the Lumineth that I'm sitting here with, where I'm like, all of a sudden, all these little rum spells, like, nah, that's a cool little option for me. Any of my units, they can do that kind of thing, so I like it. Rumscape feature. So here's now, everything's going to be like this. Ulgu, I believe, was the one that I wasn't a fan of because one of the features was like -2 to shooting or something. No. It was -2 to your range or something like that. I don't know. Jack knows because he had the shooting stormcast list. But it was a very strange one. It was like very punishing for shooting armies. Terrain features, including faction terrain, have the overgrown scenery rule in addition to any other scenery rules they have. And overgrown. Does someone remember what overgrown does? A lot of these use the new Rumscape feature, not Rumscape features, but the terrain feature things, and I don't have those memorized. The artifact here is you can reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made with a melee weapon by the bearer, which is alright. I mean, I guess, I don't know, it depends. Some factions, they have a lot of ways to modify hitting but not wounding, so that's a very, very depends kind of thing. And then the Rum Command, which I really do like, blocks line of sight at 1 inch. Interesting. Thank you so much, Ebert. Rum Command is on me. You can use this command ability once per battle. At the end of your movement phase, if you do so, pick one friendly unit wholly within 18 inches of a friendly hero, remove that unit from the battlefield, and set it up again wholly within 6 inches of that hero, more than 9 inches from the enemy. So once per game, you can pull someone out of combat, bring them right to you like a yo-yo. I like it. I'm trying to think. It's specifically at the end of the movement phase. So if you have units that, like, they charged last turn, I mean, and a lot of units are much more efficient and effective when they charge, like whether it's the Gorgrunta smashing in really hard, or Lances that get a bonus to charge, you can just pull them back and try again. I like that. Range was even worse than the original Ulgu. Yeah, for sure. Matt Davis, overgrown equals Sylvaneth Wildwoods. Does that mean I shouldn't buy any Namarti Reavers for my Ulgu Deepkin army? No, you absolutely should. They're awesome. I mean, I like the models. I don't know anything about Deepkin, but Ulgu, just because it has a feature that dissuades shooting does not mean that no one in Ulgu has ever shot a thing. So don't take it that way. It's certainly not the intent. It's just to say, hey, these are jagged cliffs or they're shrouded in fog, because it's just terrain features. There are still going to be open parts of the board. Shooting's still going to matter. The phase is still going to matter. So absolutely don't let that dissuade you. Apocalyptic Moth. So all in all, this is really cool. I like how simplified this is. I will say, when the core book dropped, and then the other supplements that came out that gave us, realm magic and Rumscape features and artifacts, and some of the missions had command abilities and that kind of like the narrative missions, I was very excited because of the potential. They really just opened the floodgates with all the different options we had available, but it is cumbersome. Like, it's a lot. One of the things I do like is that for our local tournaments, the times that I do get a chance to go, RTOs have done a really good job as far as like collating all that information. Like, they'll literally just scan the pages of all these various books, and then you'll have like a 8.5 by 11 page that says like, here's the information you need to play. And I've always appreciated that. This just goes a step beyond and just drastically cuts so much out of it. I'm really interested to see what they do for Hysh, because there's so many different kinds of spells and themes they could play on. Like, they could have done Rumscape feature here in Ulgu that was, modifies the range of ranged attacks. But they didn't. They went for something that really targets terrain, and so terrain placement's going to matter a huge deal in these missions. my point being that, like, it's something you can kind of work around as a general. It's, you know, the terrain, you can just set up things better to move through the terrain and go over it and that kind of stuff, as opposed to, like, flat, no matter where you are on the board, if you can't shoot further than 6 inches or something stupid like that. Where it's such a crotch kick that it just is no fun. And that is pretty much it. So we got some comments here. Let's see. Units that charge in the hero phase seem pretty powerful with that. Now, I know the only unit that I know of personally that can charge in the hero phase is I'm thinking of, I think there's an Iron Jaws battalion, the Brute Fist, that lets him charge not in the charge phase. What is the value of that, right? Because if you charge in the hero phase, charging doesn't mean attack. It just means you charge into combat. What is the value then of pulling them back? So I'm very curious to know. Matt Davis, thank you so much. So if there's something you're thinking about, go ahead and type it out. I would really love to know that. Because to me, it's more about, like, you know, you can have your devastating unit go in on the charge, wreck some face, then next turn pull them back to you, and then throw, like, a meat shield to clog up the now kneecapped, hopefully, unit. So that's kind of my thought when I'm looking at this. Cody says, I'm painting Fire Slayers to the best of my ability for Warcry. They are also in my army, so I'm fixing them up. I always enjoy painting loincloths and dwarf cheeks. Yeah, that's all that army is. It's just loincloths bizarre. I love it. Thank you so much for the information, Doug. These videos are incredible. So glad I got home from work in time. Oh, thank you so much. It's very kind of you. Yeah, I do it. Several folks, because I stopped doing it for a while with, I don't know, COVID just kind of took it out of me as far as, like, just being stressed and that kind of stuff, especially at work. So I just didn't have the capacity to do a lot of these streams, but now I'm back in action. So let's take a look. My thoughts, Doug, was impact hits on the charge. See, Blood Crushers in Khorne. That's awesome. I did not know that Blood Crushers did that. That is really, really cool. I love this picture up here so we can just chat and wax poetically. Now, tomorrow's going to be the hero builder. I am excited for that. Someone did say in the last chat that there's... no, you're fine, Matt. Don't worry about it. Even if you're wrong, I don't care. It's still a cool idea. It's something to think about. Like, all of a sudden, actions that happen in the hero and movement phase matter more when at the end of it you can pull someone back. So even if you're incorrect, it doesn't matter. There's still a lot to think about and chew on. Really excited for the direction of AOS so far. They are really fleshing out the rules, rules-wise and fluff, and I'm curious to get this book. Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm very excited for it. Yeah. I'll be honest, like, it doesn't have the same instant appeal as it did when they were talking about, like, siege rules or triumph and treachery. You know, the main themes here are multiplayer battles and the aerial assault thing in the open play section. And I'll be honest, like, the aerial stuff, I have to wait and see. I'm going to be optimistic. But like I said before, elevator pitch doesn't grab me. And then the multiplayer stuff, I love that it exists. I'd love to be a part of a team tournament. I just don't have the opportunity. Yeah, it just doesn't come up very often. We played that one Triumph and Treachery game and another one with the whatever they were called, the rules for massive armies. Like, they had like an APOC version in this last General's Handbook, I think. We did that as well. Lots of fun. But I just don't do it often enough. So Cody asked, what is the hero builder? Apocalyptic Moth, I'll get to your question in just a hot second. So what is the hero builder? So in the book, there is going to be, they're going to talk about it tomorrow, so you can expect a video just like this tomorrow, where my understanding from the preview video they made is that it's going to be essentially you pick your class, so to speak. So you can pick Stormcast, Human, Chaos Lord, something like that, or maybe it's by race, you know, that kind of thing. And you get, based on that, you get so many points, and those points can be spent to give that hero unique ability, so they can function like a hero in the game. And it's a character creation thing. One of the things that my initial thought when I saw that was like, oh, well, why don't we both just build 2,000 point armies plus your free hero? That way it's semi-balanced. But then someone said that there's going to be a rough estimate for points, and it's like, whatever. I'm down with it. So, let's see. Apocalyptic Moth, your question. Sorry if this is off topic, but Lotan and his Octo Buddy were so fun to paint. I always wanted to get the model, even before I knew what Age of Sigmar was. That's awesome. I'm glad you found a model you like. He is often one of those units that people struggle with in terms of, this is the most incredible model ever, and then you go to put him in your army and you're like, I just don't know where he fits. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anything about, I don't play Deepkin, so I can't comment too much, but I'm just saying it's one of those things I hear people talk about. This is an incredible model. People love it. Double Deuce Blue says Aerial Sky Stuff is in the same that was in the White Dwarf. Yeah, we kind of talked about this, and when I get the GHB, I might do a video just kind of discussing this as an idea, but basically, it is the stuff that was in the White Dwarf, but I believe it's going to be modified and kind of built out a little bit. There is actually a campaign format coming out in this for the aerial assault stuff. So again, we don't really know a whole lot. It was in the White Dwarf. It didn't super grab me then, but we'll see. I want to give everything a fair shake. You know, I got those flag eyes for Nurgle, so whatever. We'll try it out. Jack says, the new flying minigame seems like a waste of resources. Busy work. I'm torn, because at the same time that I say, you know, it's a deviation from what they probably should be focusing on. You know, things that I want are scoring systems just like they have in 40K. When they described how things are scored in the new edition of 40K coming out, I was like, yes! But they didn't do that here, which is strange, to be honest. But at the same time as I feel that it was like, this is just not priority at all, and it shouldn't be a priority, I also have to understand that, like, open play is their space to do the weird stuff that if you and a buddy are super drunk and you're just like, I want to see if my Lord of Change can take down that stupid KO ship. You have a format for it. I like the idea. It's strange because if you guys remember the old missions from when AOS first launched, I think it was in that first year, there actually was a mission where you have your 6x4 and you're playing the game here, and then you have a side table, it's like a 3x3 or something like that, and that's the aerial battle, and the two can interact with one another. And the idea was like it was prosecutors versus, I think, screamers or something like that. And for some reason, that idea of having two tables of games going on, even though that sounds absurd and it sounds like a lot to manage, I found that to be cool. Whereas saying it's all flying, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like a really cool splash-in thing, but not a core format. And that's kind of where they lose me. So, Rumgate Campaign Book 1 had it. Thank you! All these books, they blend together in my head. I swear, the minute I've rewatched so many of my own lore videos to find out if I really like an army or not, because the information just falls out of my skull the second I record it. So yeah, it's interesting. It's a very strange setup to do the open war thing there, you know. But then I think about the open war stuff they did before. No, that was narrative. I was trying to think like, oh, they had siege stuff, but like, no, that was definitely narrative. Yeah, I don't know. And the problem is, because they don't really share too much information about their development cycle, I don't know how much of this is like things got messed up and so we had to kind of scramble. Because if that's the case, I'm like, whatever, I don't care. You know what? I'm just glad you guys supported us, took a look at the points, maybe addressed a few things, you got the realm rules right, good to go. You know, but they don't share that kind of information. So William Moser, oh, thank you so much for your donation, buddy. That makes my day. Glad to have you feeling a bit better. You're the Sigmar to my Stormcast. Much appreciated. That's super kind of you. Thank you so much. Dead models from the skyboard could fall to the ground, causing D3 mortal wounds. Best part. Yeah. And that's what I was saying. It was just like, I like the idea of part of your army. Again, it's a side thing. For the same reason that I like what is it? AOS Skirmish. I like the idea of Skirmish as being, okay, we have this big campaign for AOS proper, right, with full armies, 2,000 points. But we're going to do a little bit of fun thing where in between those games, we're going to play a game of Skirmish and see, hey, if your team wins, then they open the gate of the castle we're besieging, and that gives you some benefit in the next game. Like that kind of stuff I am just all about. So, you know what I mean? Like, but that again, that's a little bit of spice to inject somewhere. It's not a full campaign system based upon that mode of play. Andrew Cunningham says 3-dimensional AOS. Exactly. Cody, my son ran up, grabbed one of my fire slayers and said, "Dada, why is he naked, baby?" Yeah. That's exactly right. Cute kid. So, that's my thoughts on the fly system. The question, are we going to get AOS version of Mordheim? Or are they going to fix Skirmish? I do not know. My problem, and I'm sure you guys can understand, is there's so many times where we can look at what they're doing with 40k and be like, that's a really smart call. Like, you know, in terms of 40k now having a myriad of entry points, different levels of play. You got Kill Team to get straight in, which I would kind of equate to our versions of Warcry, where it's literally one box and you can play. And then you have, in their new edition that's coming out in like 3 weeks or something, they have different levels of play all the way down from 500 points all the way up, and they're supposedly tinkered to make them at least fun games. I'm not going to say fair or balanced. Like, I don't really put much stock into that, but they'll at least be fun. Whereas AOS, like 1,000 points really is the start, and that's rough for some folks. I would like to see a Mordheim variant where it's a little more crunchy. I don't want to go full Mordheim where it's like, roll to see if you jump over a ledge. Okay, you fail. Roll to see if your left ankle is sprained. Okay, now roll to see if your right ankle is sprained. Okay, now we're going to roll for each of your toes. Oh, your third toe on the left is broken. You know, and there's so much rolling in Mordheim. But I want something like that where it's more in-depth than... well, I guess I really like Warcry quite a bit, but there's a lot of mechanics I would add to it. But yeah, no, I would like it quite a bit. Let's see. I know it's not quite the same, but have you tried Underworlds? I have tried Underworlds a few times. Yeah, I got into it when it first came out, and then again, maybe a year ago now. And it's the deck building. I can't get into the deck building. I just have zero interest in that aspect of the game. And I tried, basically I got a bunch of Underworld stuff from Jack because he was just sitting on it. I was just collecting dust. And so I took it up, painted a bunch of it, and then started playing again. I think I got like 4 or 5 games in, which is like a net list deck because I just didn't have any interest, and it just wasn't fun. I don't know. It just wasn't the best. So yeah. Do you think Terrain is 40k's endless spell? Do you think Terrain is 40k's endless spells? Godsmote, can you re-ask that in a different way, because I don't think I understand. Do you think Terrain is 40k's endless spells? This news drop made me feel a lot better about being here painting prosecutors who are notoriously bad in the game. I hope they get a price cut in the new GHB. Some of the best sculpts in the range. I love prosecutors. They are very cool. I would love it if there was a way to make them battle line, because then you could have like these little fast strike forces and that kind of thing. I think that would be really neat to have. I mean, if not on it, to be perfectly honest with you, when it comes to that whole first and second wave of Stormcast, so your first wave was your Liberators and Paladins, second wave being the Vanguard Chamber, the more scouty stuff. Like, I think they could make that army without any new models exponentially more fun by reworking all the battalions to make them actually thematic instead of like, okay, what units don't we have in a battalion? This one, okay, plug it in there, because some of those matches are like, I don't know what this is supposed to represent. There's no books, anything like this. It's just like, I don't know. It's weird stuff. But I think if you could create a narrative force that involved prosecutors, and some of the flying heroes and that kind of stuff would be really cool. I'd be down for that. Take it from me, Doug. I hate all card games. Pokemon, Magic. I don't care how others. Underworlds is fun. No, I understand. I understand it's fun. I'm just saying it's not for me. And also, I love Pokemon. It's a good game. But also there's like maybe 2 stats on a Pokemon card. Do you think each faction in 40k will get a terrain kit like each faction got an endless spell in AOS? Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know. If so, the reason that's a good question is because if you've been keeping up with the previews with what's coming out for Space Marines and Necrons, which is kind of their 2 armies that are launching 9th edition 40k with, it's simply that like they both have terrain stuff. They've kind of been previewing it, and so the idea is like, we're going to a direction where every faction has terrain, and many other factions in 40k have terrain. Not quite on the same level as AOS. I don't know. I don't think so because terrain in AOS doesn't cost you anything, whereas it does in 40k. It costs as a structure. You have to pay for it to bring it. It's an acquisition military-wise. As far as endless spells, though, which is what you're comparing them to, where in AOS, of course, we do pay for endless spells. I don't know. I don't know, because it depends on how much actual financial return they saw with AOS. I'm sure that was the testing ground of like, terrain and endless spells and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a solid answer for you. My gut says no, if I'm totally honest with you. In terms of like, it's an option, you can buy it. It's an option, but I don't think there's anything quite as on level of, like Nurgle trees, where it's like, it's free. There's no reason not to have it, but it's so integral to the way the faction works that you're like, so you're telling me I have to buy 9 trees. It's not true. It's not 9, but you know what I mean. Cody says, a question. Do you think free faction specific terrain is ... broken? That is far too big of a question. Broken? No. 1, because I don't like using that word to describe things. 2, I think it's just inconsistent. And by inconsistent, I mean there are some factions where it's like, you can play Gloomspite Gits and never bring the giant mountain. You can play, what are some other factions? You don't need the Maw Pot really at all if you want to play Maw Tribes. It's kind of just an ancillary thing. But then there's that, which I'm all for that, right? You give me more stuff to work with for conversions and kit bashes and scenery and creating dioramas, all on board. What I don't like is that is on one end of the spectrum, and on the complete other end is stuff like Nurgle and Sylvaneth. What else? What are some other factions that are like, the Bone Tithe Nexus is like a huge part of playing those factions. Not so much the Tithe Nexus when it comes to them, but like, yeah, Sylvaneth, Nurgle, I would say, because of the tree, and it's like multiple trees. Yeah, I don't like that it's such a wide spectrum. If it was like some are optional and they're just kind of there for model purposes, and some are really compelling choices, but again, it's not really necessary. And then there's some, it's like, my army doesn't function as intended without it. And it's like, that's what I don't like. I don't like the range. Or the spectrum, I should say. Whether or not their effects are too good, again, it varies faction to faction, terrain piece to terrain piece. One thing I never see anymore is the Storm Vault, what is it? The engine that gives you a command point or something like that. That's pretty cool. Most 40k factions already have terrain pieces at this point. It's true, yeah, but the way that they're integrated to the army and the rules are a little bit different. Because they're not free and they're not, like, hard to ignore good. Frankly, Vanguard needs to get involved with the, hopefully, Destruction Grand Alliance Rising. I think prosecutors fit better in their own thing unless they are hella expanding Harbinger Chamber. I'd be down for that. That'd be really cool. Yep, Hearthstone, Loonshrine. Yeah, exactly. So there is just some factions where, and again, I don't have a problem with the terrain. I was kind of dubious of it when Sylvaneth first did it. I was like, I don't like that. I don't like the direction that's going. And anymore, it's pretty standard. Like, some armies have it, some armies don't. but at the same time, some armies, it's just baked into their book in a radically different way. So that's what I don't like. I think, what else do I got? If you have any more questions for me, you can ask just about anything thrown in there. I'm just looking to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I'm trying to think of specific things that I want from meeting engagements that would really ratchet it into a real compelling game system. Personally, I think that like limiting deployment zones, because if you saw the original meeting engagements, it was like a min-max kind of a thing, but they didn't actually tell you where your deployment zone was. And then if you were outside of it, your models had to hang off the edge of the table, and it's like, no, I'm not buying a $110 model to hang off the edge of a table. That's ridiculous. So that was a bad idea. That was just, I don't know who in QA let that go by. But if they had formalized board sizes and more different ways to win. Because I remember the one game I played against Jack, and he did win. I'm just going to throw it out there because he made a point to say that he beat me every time. Because we got to maintain the ego, everybody. He's getting up there in age. We got to maintain it. But basically, he was playing Carriage and Overlords all on foot. I had the Vanguard stuff from Stormcast at the time, and I could just insta-blink across the board and get the objective, and there's not much he could do. So it wasn't going to be a game. And so then I just, decided to go full dingus and teleport right in front of his shooting army, and it ended very poorly for me. But I found that to be more fun. Like, me getting blown off the table was more fun than playing the mission and just him just moving 4 inches every turn or whatever the KO guys do. So it was just kind of a funny thing where it's like, this shouldn't be more fun than that. Me having a non-interaction with your gun line should not be more fun. But it is what it is. So I need formalized deployment zones, maps, or like scenarios, like with exact measurements on where objectives are, things like that, and then probably some more options to help different types of armies all feel engaging. I think that would probably be the biggest one. So yeah, that's all I got for that. But like I said, I do want to try it again. I am going to, when this GHB drops, I will pull out the old meeting engagements one, and I want to walk through them basically one by one and kind of get that together. So I'm making more locations matter. Would do a lot for making smaller games at least feel more important. For real, how many locations actually matter in AOS? You mean as far as like... I'm trying to understand what you mean. So like, you mean like a literal geographical locations matter and that small battles fight over them have importance? Is that what you're trying to say? What was the paint color you used on your fly with GS? Christopher Milan, I don't understand that question at all. What was the paint color you used on your fly? I don't know what GS means. Sorry. Green stuff? I don't know. Go ahead and write that out for me. We'll answer that up. And then we'll go ahead and we'll wind down here. I think... Oh, that's funny. I brought up the pre-order for last year's GHB. I think that's basically all I have to talk about here. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with the way that secondaries and objectives work in 40K, basically, when you score points, there's a maximum. There's a lid on how many you can make. So if you're playing like the main objective of the game, I think you can score a maximum of 5 a turn, something like that. And your secondaries work much the same way. There's a max, and then at the end of the battle, you calculate who had more of what. Whereas these is just a tiebreaker. I'm like, I want more in a tiebreaker. It's not worth leaning into the theme of my army for a tiebreaker. Give me something that's like, I can win in a different way, That'd be kind of cool. Question. If you're playing the Fallout video games, do you have any plans on doing videos for the Fallout miniatures game from Modifius? Not right now, but I do have a buddy who is he's pretty much made it his full-time job to make me want to get into that game. So we'll see how that goes. Love you, Ben. I meant to only reply to your own nerves. Meant to only reply. I meant to only replies on your. Sorry, Christopher, I'm not understanding. The colors I used for my flies, if that's what you're asking, it's just thinned out Magus purple from the contrast line. That's all there is to it. Easy peasy. I may have missed it, but do we plan on getting a preview of the Sons of Behemoth points or otherwise in this book? My understanding is no. But that's actually a great question. So the problem is we don't have a picture of what the development cycle was supposed to be without COVID happening, right? What was the timeline? When were things supposed to drop? The order of them? We have no idea. And so that's the kicker, where it's like, okay, did they push back Sons of Behemoth and Lumineth really, really far? You know, were they supposed to basically be out already and now we're staring down the barrel of the GHB? Not really quite sure. My gut tells me there's not going to be really many references to the Sons of Behemoth in this whatsoever. But I don't know. I could be wrong about that. It'll be very interesting, though. You all rock. Check in tomorrow. My son spilled chocolate milk everywhere. Have a good day, dude. Yeah, for my Nurgle Demons, it is just... it is the Wraithbone contrast primer, and then I basically did a 2-to-1 mix of Magos Purple with the contrast medium and just doused them. Doused them in that, and then picked out the little pus bits and that kind of thing with different colors. So that's really all there is to it. I made it as easy as possible because the demons didn't really interest me at all. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I will be back on tomorrow. Instead of doing like a news only thing, it'll be my actual, like, while you're reforging, where I have a topic and answer questions and go through the news of the entire week, not just what came out today and that kind of stuff. So go ahead and tune in tomorrow. I'll plan on going live around like 11-ish. But yeah, and I will see you all then. And until then, happy working, my friends.